Hello, I'm Horceror. I want to find out what makes every single killer tick. There's one big glaring issue with that though. I play the Nemesis, essentially only the Nemesis. I physically cannot get thousands of hours of experience on every single character. So, I'm going to be interviewing people that do have those thousands of hours. One for every single killer. Welcome to Stars of the Fog. Alright, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Stars of the Fog. Today, we'll be covering the killer known for going invisible, a little bit of shrieking, passive phasing, among other things, the Spirit. My guest today, well, I'll just let her introduce herself. So, who are you? What are you known for, and why the Spirit?
Hi, I'm Rayoxium. You can call me Ray. I've been playing this game for a very long time, and only recently did I actually become a mostly Spirit main. I don't particularly main one person. I still play a lot of characters, but a lot of people have known me recently for playing Spirit because I do a lot, and I did a couple showcases. I played her a little bit in competitive games, but she's definitely the killer that I am the most interested in right now.
All right, cool. And you said you've been playing DBD for a long time. Like, how long is that, and when specifically did you start, and what got you into it?
Okay, so I first started watching Hybrid Panda, if you know who that is. He streamed Dead by Daylight like constantly back in the day when I was in college, and me and my then boyfriend, we watched it together. It was like a thing we watched. We love horror games. And he was like, oh, look at this. This is so much fun. He would play Leatherface. And I didn't own a PC back then, but I would watch the gameplay. And when I finally did get one, I played it quite a bit. It was so fun. It was back in 2018. I played it a little bit before then. I don't remember exactly. I do remember my first games, I played against the pig a lot because I died to the head traps quite a lot. And back then we didn't actually have spirits. So my first main that I ever played was Huntress, and I only played Huntress. I didn't play Survivor either. I didn't play any other killer, only Huntress. So if people do know me, they would know that I was a Huntress main first.
Okay. So how did we get here? Because, like, I'm thinking in my head, Spirit, Huntress, not a whole lot of similarities. So what was the journey like from getting from there to here?
I actually think I was a Huntress main for the majority of my hours. I played her up until very recently. Actually, it was when they very first added MMR. And if you remember, the very first iteration of MMR was actually super good. Super good. It really put a strain on me playing Huntress, I'm not gonna lie, because I would go to old Fractured Cowshed, and then I would get like 4 comp gamers. And, the game maybe wasn't a bit balanced, Huntress is more of a pub stomper, so I feel like I probably had like internal really high MMR, so I just like lost every single game. But I didn't even move to Spirit. I moved to Nurse. I was like a Nurse main for like 2 months, because I played her here and there. I just like really enjoyed it, but that quickly fell off, mostly because I feel like that was really when the DC Go Next epidemic happened and everybody did it in my Nurse game. So it's just like, you know what? I'm just not going to play this killer. I'm going to go back. I kind of just played a little bit of everybody, but I finally did settle on Spirit because maps started to get really bad for Huntress. I blame Ghostface too, because his release, they added like twice as many trees to all these maps. So it just got really hard to play Huntress in the way that I felt was fun, right? Like Huntress was good and like chase still, but the most fun thing about playing her was like throwing cross map hatchets. If you remember old Blood Lodge, there was like nothing on that map. You could snipe from miles away. And that was what I found fun. But then I kind of moved to Spirit. She was way more fun in my eyes. I think the main reason I still do play Spirit is because she is fun no matter what kind of survivor you're going against. Because if the survivors are bad and they don't know what they're doing, they're freaking out, they're running in the most unpredictable directions, that's still really fun. Like you're playing against a good survivor, still really fun. You're strong enough to be able to win those chases if you're good. And if I'm not good enough to catch a good survivor, then like it's still fun. She's just fun no matter what.
Okay. Wow. I mean, you covered a lot of things and you set up a lot of threads for me to pull on, and that's great because a lot of these I was already thinking of. Okay, cool. So basically, start Huntress, they start updating maps, they added MMR, you're like, I don't really like that. Mm-hmm. Squirtle said almost the exact same thing too, about like things that he hasn't liked about Dead by Daylight changing, and that's like them just adding a bunch of random shit on every single map.
Yeah, it got really frustrating, especially now because the validation that happens to your hatchets. You'll get something really cool, and then, oh no, just it doesn't hit.
Yeah, they bleed, they scream, no injury.
Yeah, it's really frustrating to be a Huntress player, which is so funny because of those buffs that she got a little bit ago where her windup is faster and she gets 7 hatchets by default. You think that people would like jump and play that killer more, but I really don't think the pick rate has really jumped at all.
Now you get validated faster.
Yeah.
So running it back to Spirit a little bit here. So was there a specific initial appeal to like why Spirit, or was it just like, okay, I'm not really feeling Hunter, so I'm going to pick something random now?
I actually played her a bunch on release, and the reason is a little bit funny. Is because my first PC that I got, like PC, sorry, I said I got a PC back then, but it really was like one I kept at my boyfriend's. But then in college, when I had my PC, I had a TV as a monitor, and the response time was so slow that I physically could not play Huntress. Like, you had to correct your hatchets. I couldn't do it.
Oh,
so
no.
Spirit dropped, and I was like, I can play this killer even with like a whole 1-2 second delay. So that's really, really the reason. Also, people on Spirit's release said she was really bad. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't think I was playing at the time because I know you're saying a lot of stuff like, oh yeah, you probably remember. I don't remember. I was here. I played 100 hours in 2017 and then I quit because all my friends quit. And then I came back in 2021. So
Gotcha.
I'm relatively a baby when it comes to all the old head DBD players.
Right. Yeah, and usually when I talk to people about the stuff they are like OG players, I gotta bring up these points that I forget. Like most people don't know. Yeah, like a lot of people said Spirit on release was really bad. And mind you, this is back when she didn't have directional phasing, didn't have phasing sounds at all when you were in her terror radius, had insanely broken add-ons. She was insane on release. And I physically could not understand why people thought she was bad. And also sound was really good back then, not compared to like the quality it is now. It was fantastic. Like if you could track using sound, you would just demolish people all the time. Even with my really low response time monitor, I still felt like I was just absolutely demolishing lobbies.
And is that like what you enjoyed the most? Like, obviously, do you enjoy winning? But like, was that the
that
thing
part
that
of it. I'll admit it.
So like, if you had to pick like one thing about Spirit that was like the absolute biggest thing you enjoy, oh yeah, I love winning, but like a tech, a visual, a sound, anything at all, what is the number one thing about Spirit for you?
Well, you do mention text. I love the husk block you can do on a pallet. Do you know what that one is?
I know vaguely of it, but you could still explain it.
Okay, so what you do, you have to set up at a semi-playable palette, semi-safe one. You can't do this on something like Shack because there's just no time to phase around. What you can do is you can place your husk close to a pallet on one side, and then you phase around to the other side. If the survivor vaults into the husk, they cannot move. They cannot leave, or they cannot revault because you're close enough, you're blocking their prompt to be able to do that. So they essentially become trapped right there. So if you can get a survivor to vault into you and you do the husk block correctly, then you just get like an absolute free down. It's one of the most satisfying things to do. And it doesn't really happen very often, mostly because like newer players don't even think to do that. And then advanced players know not to do that. Or like advanced players will do this thing where they drop an item on one side and that sounds exactly like a vault sound. So you kind of get tricked. Which, I mean, if somebody does that back to me, that's like touche. That's insane. People never really do that. Or
yeah, they're probably excited to do it the other way. They're like, I never get to do this. Oh my god.
Yeah. Downside to that is your item appears on the ground.
Oh, wow.
So if you see the item drop, then you're like, oh, well, then they're faking it. And then you get a free hit because you're stuck in a dropping animation. Mm-hmm. I also love the ability to somebody told me this once. I didn't come up with it. They call it an ego phase is when
that's so funny, actually, because I have something, because I play Nemesis. I don't know how familiar you are with me. But like, I literally have something called an ego whip where I just keep going for it, even though I've missed like 6 times in a row.
Oh, I do the same thing when I play Nemesis. It's the principle of it.
It's like, no, I can't M1 you. That's disrespectful.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. An ego phase is when you are absolutely sure of where somebody is and you immediately swing at it coming out of phase. It makes it look like you're hacking. That is super satisfying as well.
And do you ever miss them?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Especially because there is a sound bug right now where I don't even know how it triggers, but like this little bubble will happen on the killer and like sound will become non-directional. So if like survivors know about it and they're like, moving around in unpredictable ways, it's really hard to just get like that ego face. I don't do it much anymore because of that bug, but survivors don't usually take advantage anyway.
Dead by Daylight and Bugs, no more iconic duo.
I know, it's a whole bunch of them that are affecting sound too. It's rough out here.
Man, I'm just getting a lot of threads. So like, I could do text, I could do bugs, I could do what do you dislike. Let's just go with dislike because that's very easy. It's the opposite end of things we were just talking about. So we just did what do you enjoy the most? What do you dislike the most, Spirit?
I dislike how slow she is. She is like the opposite of a character like Blight, where her map pressure is horrible, but she's so strong that you can't buff her in any way. Like that would just be ridiculous, buffing an S tier killer. But also, I will go ahead and say she has an add-on that increases something about her by 40%. Like
Which
that's
add-on
insane.
is this?
It's the green rusty flute add-on. It makes her recharge come back 40% faster, which is an insane number.
Wow.
Yeah, I am of the opinion that they should take like 20% of that and give it to her base kit and then just take it away from that add-on because everybody uses that every single game. Like you will not see a game where Spirit isn't running that or like a lower tier version of it. But I feel like it would be so weird to do that. You know how like most people don't read patch notes and most people aren't like
Real
super involved in the game?
DBD gamers, yeah.
True. Very true. Oh yeah. Yeah, mostly just that she's very slow. Like she takes forever to get from one point to the other. The chasing is very, very satisfying. I hate that I have to run an add-on every game because if you don't run the Rusty Flute add-on, it really is just like annoying. I also do hate that she's an accessibility issue. Like some people just can't realistically play against her. That kind of sucks. And
Yeah,
I do
hi,
feel bad.
me.
Yeah, I do feel bad. It's the same thing though, like Plague mains though. Like they're not going to stop playing Plague just because someone has a metaphobia.
Yeah. And it should be on behavior to like fix that as a thing. So I agree.
Absolutely, yeah.
But while we're talking about add-ons, actually, could you tell me about her add-ons? Like overall, do you think they're balanced, overtuned, undertuned, and what your favorite ones to run are? We did briefly talk about it, of course, but do you think any are like problematic for the game as a whole?
You know, only one, which is Cherry Blossom. I actually think Cherry Blossom is terrible. I don't think it's good at all because it like removes, it's usually people consider it a beginner add-on, but why would you run an add-on that gets rid of scratch marks if you are already having trouble tracking in phase? And then also the killer instinct that comes with it is not reliable. So it's like, it's kind of like a bait, I feel. Like, oh, you can do this tracking, but you don't need sound, but also the tracking is horrible. So I just don't like it. But other than that add-on, I don't think there's any problematic ones. Spirit add-ons are very boring because there are several add-ons that are just lesser good versions. Like there's 3 different recharge, 1, 2, 3 different speed, 2 different charge time, ones that like you charge your power faster.
Yeah.
There's just, her add-ons are very boring. Her purple ones are a little bit interesting, but you're forced to run the Rusty Flute add-on every single game that you really can't run the silly ones unless you want to completely nerf yourself. Like you basically have to run like the good add-ons on Spirit. That's why it's kind of like the downfall of being an S tier killer. You need to run like specific things or else you're really bad. She's not an S tier killer anymore if she doesn't run those add-ons either because her map pressure is already so bad by default. If you take away really good chase from her, then she gets nothing.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing with the clown. Actually, I'm not saying clown's an S tier killer, but just like if you take away his really good chase to compensate elsewhere, it kind of just takes away from the character rather than...
Yeah, absolutely. I do personally run the Rusty Flute, of course, and then I run the movement speed add-on, the Muddy Sports Day Cap, which is yellow, increases your movement speed while phasing by 10%. Some people like to use the hair ribbon, which makes your charge time faster by 20%, I believe. I don't remember the exact number, but it's usually Spirit mains would just go between like those two, like the cap and the ribbon.
Cap and ribbon.
Yeah, you will never see like a Spirit main run the gimmicky add-ons. I know that's kind of true for other killers as well, but hers are especially just bad.
I mean, sometimes I do see a Billy with whatever his version of speed limiter is, and I get shocked when I saw it, and I don't go down. I'm like, oh.
Billy mains are built diff.
Yeah, but I kind of get the point because Nemesis, Marvin's Blood is like borderline. You need to run it now because it's literally the difference between getting your tier 2 in 2 hits pallets in 3 hits, which is kind of a big deal when his whole thing is breaking pallets. So you're not running it takes you the entire chase. And like, I do like that as a base kit change, but it's just, I can't take it off legally. It just feels
Obligated.
so bad. And while we're talking about other things that we're running here, how about perks? Do you think there's any perks specifically that Spirit use better than any other killer?
That's actually a really good question. And I have a YouTube video that I made specifically on Languid Touch, which is a Lich teachable. It causes survivors to have exhaustion for a few seconds. I don't remember exactly. When they scare a bird in your tear radius, or 36 meters, actually. It just pairs so very well with Spirit. Twofold. One, it gets rid of their exhaustion perks, which if you are playing against an S tier killer that you know you're going to go down in a chase to, your exhaustion perk is how you buy time. That well-placed Lithe, you're living against a Blight is super hard. So using a Lithe just to buy an extra couple seconds for your team to get gens done, or for you to die in like a corner, like exhaustion perks are how you play against high tier killers. And if you get rid of that, then that's already good. But then also, you can't use Iron Will while you're exhausted. So it completely counters the 1 counter to Spirit. It's just such a good perk, and I recommend that just like all Spirit players use it.
Yes, Spirit players. I'm just going to pretend I'm not actively running that right now because I've been complaining about exhaustion perks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it works on other killers as well. I love Languid Touch across the board. It's just specifically to counter Iron Will. I always tell people that. I'm like, you have any tips for playing against Iron Will? Yeah, run this perk.
Yeah, run Languid.
Yep.
And is that also like your favorite personal perk? Like, is that your guilty pleasure?
I'm going to be honest. I don't even know if I have a guilty pleasure. Like, my build looks the same on most killers. It's just like 2 slowdowns, 2 chase perks. It's usually like pain res, pop, eruption. And then I go for like brutal strength, enduring, languid touch. I'm not really a like set build kind of person. Even on Spirit, I'm always mixing it up. There was a while I just ran a don't touch my Noed build where it was Hex Thrill, Hex Undying, Hex Haunted Grounds, and then Noed. So I basically just had no perks the whole game. Like, that was fun for a while.
Yeah, I love Floods of Rage personally. It gets me a lot of hits through windows.
Oh, yeah. On Spirit, though, you can't really use aura reading because you don't see auras.
But, I have to use my eyes, not my ears.
It can be like that sometimes. Floods is good on Huntress, I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of a conversational left turn because I don't have a good segue for it. But how, obviously you enjoy playing the killer, you enjoy the playstyle, but how do you feel about Spirit's lore? And is it like something you really are into? Are you a fan of Spirit's lore?
I'm not a lore person.
Okay.
I don't really, I mean, I read it back in the day, but I'm not really like involved in the lore. I just really like the mechanics of the killer.
Yeah, it's always fun hearing from people because it's always usually like, there's not really like a half and half. It's like a either, no, I don't really worry about it, or like, I love this character and I will kill people who disrespect them. It's really neat. It's fun.
Pixie.
We've got Pixie, we've got Magi, we've got Pixel Bush, we've got Zozo. Like, we've got a very stacked cast for it. It's very fun.
Yeah, I'm just the kind of person who plays the games that lore's like whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. And how do you feel about your killer's cosmetic options? And if they have enough, not enough? And if you had full executive creative control, what skin would you have made? And of course, what's your favorite set right now?
I don't think there's anybody in the entirety of DBD who thinks Spirit doesn't have enough cosmetics. She's probably one who gets the most and the best one. She's had multiple licensed skins. We just got the Tomi skin, the Junji Ito collection, and we had an Attack on Titan skin where she was the Warhammer Titan. She definitely gets a lot of cosmetics. I think she gets a lot of good cosmetics. She does, definitely. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I think she's definitely popular somewhat in NA, but she's very popular in like Japan. So I definitely think they make bank on skins for her. She gets a ton of them. I'm not going to be like, oh, and I wish she had more better ones, but no, she gets a lot of good ones. I don't really have like an idea of what I'd like. She gets so many. Like, she gets so many good ones. I think my favorite one that I always go back to is probably the schoolgirl outfit, the black and white one. That was one of her very first ones released, and it's just so clean. It's just so good. I like the blighted weapon as well. That one just looks so cool. She has just so many good ones. I go between all of them. Even her just prestige skin is probably one of the best prestige skins in the game. Like, I'm pretty basic when it comes to cosmetics. She has so many good ones. I don't think there's anybody in the whole world who thinks that she doesn't have at least one good one.
She does have a lot of good stuff, I will say. I like the big hat. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, the what's it called? Hooked on You. Yeah.
I do like me some big hats.
Her hair looks so weird on low graphics though. I can't play it. Can't justify.
I play on Ultra, so I can't say it's ever something I've really looked at.
Oh, Mr. My PC can run on Ultra.
It's not a hard game to run.
Okay, well, I stream at the same time as well.
I do too.
And,
it's just not it.
It's just not it. I don't like. I just don't like it. You know.
I don't
have the highest grade PC.
I gotta have a competitive advantage. If I can't see through every grass particle, what's the point?
You know what? That's just me. You know.
Yeah.
Gotta do it. The game is on like crazy amounts different in like darkness from low to ultra. So you know, if their game wasn't that bad, do you have a difference? Then you know, maybe I would run ultra. Maybe I would. My game is actually kind of buns though. It loses frames quite often. That's
not even like a graphical thing. That's just, I think that's Unreal 5. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's happening to like everybody.
I can't justify running it higher if I do that.
That's completely understandable.
Oh, there is something to mention. I don't know if this really like sways if I use the skin or not, but most like competitive spirit players or even just sweaty spirit players in general will use the schoolgirl hair because it's like not that tall, right? And if you use like the default hair or any of the cosmetics that go up that high, you can like see a little bit over tiles, especially on Azeroth's maps. So sometimes I'll use those hairs. To be fair though, the reason I do is because her hair like has been bugged for a really long time, in which the texture is really weird and the clumps of it move in really weird ways. So I hate looking at it. So I just don't ever use like half the hair cosmetics. I just use the smaller ones.
Okay, comp hair, good to know. So, I mean, while we're talking about comp and, you know, we can just segue that really well into killer strength. So I know you did say earlier that like she's like an S.A. tier-ish killer, but just like in terms of strength, not just an obvious answer like, oh yeah, I think they're this tier, but personally, how strong do you think Spirit is and why?
Somewhere around there. I think I have a like special classification, which I think like only like one or two killers. Old Chucky kind of fell into this, where they had insane chase, but they had bad map pressure. I say S tier killers are killers who have good chase, good map pressure. Nurse barely fits in there because she is kind of slow. If you know competitive Dead by Daylight at all, you know that she's placed on Cold Tower a lot, and that is the smallest map in the game. And good teams can still out her. So like the only killers I really put up there would be Billy and Light. Those are really the only two S tiers. I would say either like S- or A+ is where killers like Spirit, Nurse barely fits into S because her chase is actually just that insane.
Yeah.
And then Old Chucky before this like recent change. I don't know. I don't think Houndmaster's up there. I don't play Houndmaster, but I know people say her chase is insane, but her map pressure is probably pretty bad too. Yeah, like she's around where people say she is. I'm not gonna like make the case for, oh, she's actually this weak or oh, she's actually so strong if you play her right. I know a lot of people do that, but no, I definitely think that she's exactly where people think she is.
Yeah, I make Nemesis look S tier. I'm just that good.
People who are on copium about how strong their killer is.
Yeah.
I love it when content creators do like showcases of these characters and they just get like, I don't want to say like I like it seeing them get absolutely demolished, but I
got absolutely demolished in mine.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
was it
was
the
rough.
Nemesis Wesker one?
Yeah,
was it a Hens one? Gotcha. Yeah, you really don't know until you play comp. You know, I was humbled too. You know, once upon a time
I didn't have an ego going
humbled.
in. I just cracked. It wasn't great.
It does be like that sometimes.
But as you were just talking about Cold Tower, so maps for Spirit, right? What's your favorite map? What's your least favorite map? And are these the same as Spirit's best and worst maps?
Pretty much. Everybody's gonna like the smaller maps, right? That's just because they're easy. I just like the basic maps that are like Azeroth's, Macmillan, where all the loops are kind of normal. Maps that I don't like are usually something like surprisingly Midwich. Midwich is just like, God, I hate that map. I just don't like that map at all. Got like quite a few safe palettes and then like weird shaped ones. I just don't like it. The map is like split into two different levels. So if you want to get somewhere, you have to get to a corner. That was just really annoying to play on. Bigger maps in general, just because like I can't do anything. If I want to win on like an Ormond map, I have to play like really macro-y. And whenever I play Spirit in pubs, I just go for like 12 hooks every time. Not intentionally, but I do just enjoy the chase, the mid game. Like winning usually comes with that if I play really well, but I'm not a fan of just like trying to actively win by doing macro decisions. I know a lot of content creators do that and they're like, oh yeah, you have to play really smart. And I'm like, no, I just want to chase dog. I'm going to play my S tier killer and play literally every single chase. And because I have an S tier killer, I can get away with it. So just, good maps in general. Wrecker's Yard is kind of a personal favorite of mine because I played Calm Spirit on that one so very often. And I feel like it's like the perfect give and take for both the killer and the survivor.
Yeah, that I actually watched Hens' showcase of you versus the Chucky to prepare for like what mine would entail, I guess. And it was on I want to say Azarel's resting place, like the really long one.
I hate that map, actually.
Yeah,
I hate that map for any killer because you're forced to play one side. It's like a macro map. It's just, I don't like it.
Actually, it's not a Mac map. It's an Azarel's map.
Okay.
Okay, buddy. While we're talking about comp, so it's not necessarily comp, but winstreaking. How do you feel about winstreaking on Spirit?
Well, no matter what I'm going to say, I mean, I have the record for the highest. I think I still do hold the record for the highest Spirit win streak. It's like 400 something. Yeah, I don't remember the exact number. It's more like I just did it because I was bored. Yeah. And it gave me a reason to it gave me a goal when I was streaming. So it's not that I hate it or I like it. It is fun to be really sweaty. And it's super fun when you run into sweat squads and you're both running insane stuff. So you feel like, oh yeah, I'm equipped to do with this. And it does sort of feel bad sometimes whenever you get those people who are clearly just not on that same level, who are just casually playing. But even then it's like, well, I could play a little bit easier this game. I mean, the reason I lost my win streak was because I had that mentality going in where I was like, I'll go easy on these guys. I won't tunnel because I feel like I'm ahead. And then I lost it. It was just a tragedy.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me too. Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened to Alf as well. Like after so many games, you just sort of you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win, 450 something. Like, what's gonna change about this one?
Yeah, I think Alf said it was like, it's kind of like imagine like your friend, like they come over to stay for a bit, right? And like, for a few days, you're like, okay, I'm glad they're here. For a week, it's great. It's like a month, like, bro, go home.
Yeah, it is like that. That's the reason I also haven't restarted it because, I got my fill. I did my win streaking, I proved, I don't know, that I could win in solo queue DBD standards. I don't know. It's not that impressive, I think. You're just super lucky you don't get those squads who go in with the mentality that they're gonna win no matter what. I think if you take all the resources survivors have against all the resources killer has, no matter what killer you're playing, you're always going to lose. Yeah. If there's no restrictions whatsoever. So it's basically saying you're lucky enough you never ran into a squad doing that.
Yeah, and Momo said along the lines of if he ran into the squad that beat his win streak, every single game, he would have been lucky to get to 50.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you feel Spirit, I mean, obviously she's a good killer, but do you think she has any specific advantages on win streaking over other killers? Is there anything that makes it easier for her specifically?
No, I actually think she's at a disadvantage just because her map pressure is super bad. Her map pressure is worse than lower tier killers.
Just because of being
I think
a
she's at a
right?
Yeah, she has good chase, right? But there is the perk off the record, which actually is such a huge detriment to her. One, because she has to hit somebody again. And when you use your phase, you're waiting a long time for it to come back. And if they have off the record, that is 80 seconds of just complete silence. And that complete silence doesn't get interrupted by anything, right? It doesn't go away when the endurance goes away as well. So you are chasing someone who just has Iron Will, indefinitely for those 80 seconds.
And you then can't exhaust it like you could normally with Languid or something?
Yep. Off the record is such a strong perk, and it just personally is really difficult to deal with in win streak games because you don't even have to be a super insane spirit or a survivor player to be able to get really good value because there's a lot of audio bugs in the game that makes tracking just footsteps kind of difficult sometimes.
Oh yes, absolutely. And just you're so great at segueing for me. It's awesome. So speaking of bugs on Spirit, are there any that maybe aren't as known? I definitely know Spirit's got some audio bugs. In fact, Hens just posted today that an audio bug got fixed. So
Mhm.
That's cool. But like, tell me about them. Tell me about the bugs.
There is quite a few audio bugs. That spirit one specifically did get fixed. That's only like specific to her. All these audio bugs in the game affect everybody. So I talked a little bit about how there's a bubble that sometimes can form around the killer where sound is non-directional. And that's really detrimental for when survivors double back on you because you'll hear a sound and you're like, oh, they're right on top of me. But because that bubble is non-directional, they'll be like really far away from you. And then you will overphase or you won't be able to phase on top of them. And they just have massive distance on you coming out of your face. You're like, I swear to God, they were right here. But then they're just really far away.
Yeah, it's
That
like
one's
they just leave the loop.
yeah, it's really frustrating. And usually happens like out in the open. It's just difficult to deal with. Another audio bug that you wouldn't think happens, but it does, is when there's too many sounds playing at one time, the quieter sounds will just not be played at all. So if you're on maps, the one that really comes to mind is Toba Landing.
That's what I was
You know
gonna
how
say.
there's, yeah, it's got a lot of environmental sounds. Like if you are looping near a generator that has sounds, there's environmental sounds, there's an injured sound, there's footstep sounds. Some of those will just not play at all. It's like there's limited audio channels or something,
That's
and they
so
just
weird.
don't get played. Yeah, that one's particularly frustrating. Other than that, like she specifically doesn't have many bugs. Like she's actually pretty okay. I mean, they just fixed that one bug that I would have actually said.
And now it's just kind of like, well, now it's less of a spirit bug and more of a she happens to be the audio killer in a game with a bunch of audio bugs.
Yeah. I do still experience the audio bugs when I play other killers, but it's definitely not to the same degree.
Yeah, because you can still use your eyes, but then like the scratch marks are also bugged. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. A little bit rough. Sometimes when I'm just, when I'm streaming and I'm reading chat and I just listen for the survivor and I turn back to look at the screen and it's just like they're not exactly where they should be. That one does get me. But other than that, that doesn't happen too often.
They do be vanishing, and I am actively looking at them when they're vanishing. I blink and they're gone.
Does happen.
So speaking of Survivor, I'm not sure if you play Survivor, but
I do
if
sometimes.
you do, when you play against Spirit, do you enjoy playing against Spirit?
I swear to God, I only get the hackers. Because Spirit is the killer where you're specifically like, oh man, she's just tracked me so easily, or like all those kind of things. It's always hackers. I never get just like a normal Spirit player. And they're hacking too, because one, I play Spirit a lot. And I know how much her default is and how much her add-ons add. And you could just tell, I use as an example because this is the latest one I have. There was this one time I was playing against a spirit. She was phasing like right on top of us, right? Cherry blossom level phases. Like even when people weren't injured, they're just crouching. That's suspicious, but not totally like a full sell. She only had brown add-ons and her phases were super long. Like you can get away with being a spirit hacker more than any other killer.
Just because she's invisible. Yeah.
Yeah, she's invisible and she moves faster when she's invisible too. So it's just like, oh, that's just Spirit. So you can speed hack subtly and no one will ever call you out on it.
Yeah. And then you run into a Spirit player like you or Devood or anyone else. And they're like, this guy's full of shit.
Yeah. I mean, I do sometimes get Hackusations when I play Spirit, but it's not very often. I think if I were to play against normal spirits, I think I'd like it. It's fun.
Like off topic though, I think it's really funny when people accuse you of hacking when you're like live streaming. It's like, okay, report me then.
So
Here's the video evidence. VOD's up.
Just plug the Twitch. Yep. It's pretty funny. I do like it. Usually I got Hackusations when I played Huntress though. Not as much Spirit. Surprising.
How dare you be good at aiming?
I know. That one is like, I don't know. It's usually the bad players or the new players kind of get bent out of shape about Huntress. Like I said earlier, she's a pub stomper.
Yeah, she is for sure. I do like it when they grow and learn and be like, oh wow, maybe I was incorrect.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those people when I was new. I got like sniped all the way across the map and I was like, this bitch is hacking. She obviously wasn't. But
and she had barbecue or something, like.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It probably was just barbecue.
How do you know where I am? Aura perks? What's that? Curious.
I ran in a straight line too. Like classic.
Oh no. Okay, I will ask though. So again, still from a survivor point of view, what do you think is the most like, not necessarily just the hacker thing, but like if a survivor player is playing in Spirit, what do you think is like the most frustrating part for that player playing against her?
besides people not having the equipment to actually like fully track her,
Like headphones.
That is the number one thing. Is just like if you don't have really good, or you don't even have to have really good headphones. You just have to have like standard headphones. If you're playing on your speakers, it's probably really difficult. Granted, you could get to a pallet and just throw it and play like a 50-50. Even if you have really good headphones, that's not going to save you in 50-50 scenarios. I think people's just in general complaints are because she's so strong. And like if you're playing against a really good spirit player, it could just feel like you can't do anything at all. It's probably so difficult.
It is. Can confirm.
I mean, other than that, I feel like that's just the main complaint, It's the same thing where people are like playing against blights, they got so much going for them on their kit that it feels like what you're doing is just useless.
Yeah. And then they have perks on top of the kit that they're already whooping me with. So it's like, oh man.
Yeah. I do make it a point to not run the most like sweaty stuff when I'm playing killer, because I know how bad it feels. And if I lose because I go against a squad that's just better prepared or, doing some survivor win streaking themselves, it's like whatever. The game's not balanced and I don't mind losing those ones.
Yeah, it's like a getting out perked scenario and you never know how to prepare for the group that you might need it for. So it's like,
yeah, it's Dead by Daylight, right? You're going to win some and lose some. Sometimes It's even just map generation that you lose to.
Exactly. So how about this? How about, say, again, I'm a new player, right? Say I'm you in 2018. I'm picking up Spirit for the first... I don't know if Spirit was out in 2018. Say I'm playing Spirit when she just came out. But, like, she came out today in current state. This is a horrible opener. But, like, what general advice would you give to someone that is learning Spirit for the first time? Like, just... I'm sure you could write, like, a whole essay on it, but, like, the absolute fundamentals of Spirit. What would you say?
Well, if somebody asked me, I would direct them to my YouTube video, Spirit Beginner Tips and Tricks.
I love YouTube videos.
I made that specifically because people who were new to the killer wanted advice. And I'm really bad at giving advice just right on the spot. So what I did was, I just made the video. It's got really basic tips in there. How to use your power, what perks to use, what add-ons, tiny little tricks you can use. It's not really an advanced player's guide. It really is just like a basic beginner's guide. It's like one of the tricks I like to do when I play Spirit that's not super well known is whenever you face sideways, which makes it easier to track when somebody's doubling back on you.
Really?
It's just like, yeah, because it makes sound transfer from one side of your headset to the other. It's super noticeable. Something like that. My friend told me about it like not too long ago. I can't even remember when it was. I didn't even know about that when I played Spirit, and they told me, and I was like, you know what? That makes sense. One of those things.
That really does, though, because like I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just gonna crab walk. No, that makes sense. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it.
If you see like a Spirit player doing like these weird things while they're phasing, it's not just them like styling on people. It really is just like they're doing it on purpose to get an advantage. Like phasing sideways, it just makes it so much easier to track someone.
And that could be her skin that you have made where she's a crab.
Oh yeah, crab walking, for sure.
The crab spirit. But yeah, like it's not even like a thing that's like so obvious. It's just like, oh, why didn't I think of that? It's like legitimately, I never even thought to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, somebody told me as well. Like I've been playing Spirit for a super long time. And they are just like, they were like a really, really old school player, and they knew more than I did. So, I'm still learning things every day.
Yeah,
still
for
learning.
Sure.
Like all these bugs I know about as well. Like David is also one person that I like learned about these from.
I forgot David Creator. I was like, David King?
Oh, no, David. He lets me call him David, either known as Carol or Davude. Or Look at My Feet, DBD.
Which is still an insane username. But yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So are there like some common misconceptions about Spirit or things you wish people understood? Say someone has like a really common complaint, but there's also really obvious counterplay that they're not using, stuff like that?
Just throw the pallet, man.
Just throw the pallet.
Just throw the pallet. Like you... Giving the Spirit the pallet. That's the number one mistake a lot of people do. Because as a Spirit, if you get to a playable pallet, right, and you put yourself on it and you start phasing, the survivor has to go one way. You are going to beat them. You are faster than them. Just throw the pallet, man. It's okay. Like, we're not going to judge you. It's an S-tier killer for a reason. Throw the pallet.
Yeah, because if you don't throw the pallet, you're forced to go one direction, and then you can't even have a 50-50. It's a 0-0. You lose.
Yeah, against a good spirit, you will lose 100% of the time, unless you are absolute God's gift to DBD and some miracle happens.
I am God's gift to
spirit,
DBD. I play Meg Thomas. I'm P1.
I am Meg Thomas. I am Prestige 3. I have her bloody cosmetic.
Yep, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, just draw a palette. It's okay. We won't judge.
We won't judge. So what would you change about her, if anything? Like... accessibility, kit, balance. I mean, obviously, the accessibility thing, we already talked about that. But, like, if you could change anything about her, what would you do?
I think I would do that in the same patch. If I could have my way, I would buff her base kit, take the Rusty Flute, give it to her a little bit by base, and then nerf the add-ons. And then I would give her more accessibility by default, like the tracking thing. You mentioned something like Fortnite. I'm sure it's exactly what people think it is. I would prefer that happen in like the same patch. That way you can justify it. Look, you sort of quote unquote nerf the killer and then you can buff them and no one complains. Everyone's happy. People will complain, but I'll be happy.
I mean, even as, you know, #1 spirit hater, I got my hat and my foam finger and everything just because it's accessibility. I physically, because I play with my game at like 40%, right? Just because there's a lot of noises that just like just get on my nerves. So like when I play against spirit, I get the call out because I play on Fridays pretty much only for Survivor. So I get the call out, oh, it's a spirit. I hit escape, I go to my settings, I turn up my volume to 80, I have a bad time, like I at least have a little bit of counterplay. Yep. But the accessibility thing would be real big for me. I'd enjoy it because it'd be like, oh, she's like directional.
And you know what? I'd love that too, because the people I'm playing against would have more fun and, you know, maybe they DC less. And I would also just like it if people had fun while playing. You know, it takes 5 people to play a game. And if 4 people are miserable, then that's not good.
A good game, no. Yeah, and, you know, like pretty much everyone I've talked to that has a killer with some sort of accessibility thing, which is only Magi so far, to be fair. But like... They're like, yeah, there should be accessibility options for like every kit. Like ideal world, like here's me smoking my copium. Just have a whole menu for every killer and have accessibility options for every single one. Like Spirit had the directional thing. Doctor, turn off the static if you want. You could turn off the motion for like Nemesis and Wesker HUDs, etc., etc., etc. You know, down, so on and so forth. And then you just have options.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And while we're updating our killers on accessibility and whatever else we might want to do, how have updates treated Spirit? And would you say any nerfs and buffs that she's gotten have been fair?
I mean, she hasn't been updated in a really long time. She got some much needed adjustments. She had mostly nerfs, which, you know, is understandable. People didn't think she was insane upon release, but she absolutely was. I think she's in a pretty good state, besides like me wanting them to buff her recovery rate. Other than that, she's just perfect. I mean, if they didn't buff her recovery rate, I would just continue to run the same add-on. But I know behavior hates that, and they want people to use fun things and creative things and not just the same stuff. We've seen them nerf things just because it was overused. So hopefully, if they ever do that for Spirit, they do buff her base before they nerf the add-ons that I use. Please, don't do this to me. Yeah, that's my only thing. She's actually in a pretty good spot, I think.
And what about the game as a whole, as far as like the meta has changed around her? That being like new perks, new maps. You haven't had a full rework to her power as far as I'm aware, but you know, just like the game around Spirit.
Yeah, it's just pretty much all right. It's not really that different. I mean, she doesn't play maps as badly as like lower tier killers. She's still pretty good. I just don't like maps that have like ton of environmental sounds. They did add that Ormond one, and that one's super loud for just sounds in general.
What actually, sound are we referring to here? Because the only thing I can think of is like the elevator dropping on the mine.
It's got a lot of like whooshing sounds because it is a snow map. It's just Ormond in general. And then that map, for some reason, has like footstep-like sounds. It doesn't make sense. There's just like random, I think it's like creaking of the structures. Yeah, it's miserable. I mean, the majority of the time, it's fine. She's in a pretty good spot. You know, like I said, I place a lot of Spirit because she's just one of the more bearable killers to play. She doesn't suffer that much from bad maps. She doesn't suffer that much from like perk changes because she's so good. The one perk that does get annoying to play against is Off the Record, but is there anybody out there who thinks that perk is not insane?
No, I think Off the Record is a real good perk.
That's pretty real good, yeah.
Like,
so it's
if
not
there's
like...
an S tier, it's in there. It's actually kind of funny because, you know, Audio Killer, pretty much the only one in the game, really. But, like, everyone else has been like, oh yeah, I love Ormond Lake Mine. This is, like, the best map they've done in years.
Yeah, I mean, I love playing on it as Huntress and any other killer. I think it's fantastic. Sure. It's just a little annoying with sounds. To be fair, it's not that bad. It's just like slightly annoying.
Just a little bit.
I'll still like it. Yeah, I'll take it over Midwich.
If you don't want Midwich, I will very bravely, I will take the map for you.
You know what? There has only been a very small handful of times I have DC'd in this game. And one of them was when I turned around a corner and I got hit by a zombie. And then I ran and I said, if that happens again, I'm DCing. And I got hit by another zombie. Twice in like one instance, I DC'd.
Oh my god.
I was not having it.
It is so funny because like usually I'm not even in chase, and then I just like I look at the top right, says zombie attack, and then someone's on the ground,
So
and I'm like,
quiet. Coming around a corner, you don't hear them at all.
just another mention of the audio bugs at Dead by Daylight. Oh boom.
Yeah. I think the zombies are just exceptionally affected by audio occlusion. Like they just make no sound around corners.
It cracks me up though. I'm sorry. It's so funny.
I know it is funny. I'll admit. It was a DC, but it was more of like not a rage quit. It's just, you know what? I said I was going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I ain't a quitter.
It's so funny because like I have a very specific memory of a green-haired Nia who I was chasing, and I hit her with my tentacle, and then she rounds a corner, gets smacked by a zombie, keeps running, get hits by the other zombie. DC's like
me,
instantly.
Could have been me.
Ooh, man, it's so funny. The 3-tap is like unparalleled, like levels of dopamine for me. It's so good. Okay, so last few questions. Do you think that Spirit specifically has given you transferable gameplay skills to other killers and or other games?
Wouldn't say other killers, but other games for sure. It's trained me to use my ears a lot more. And you know, I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals recently, and the sound quality in that game is fantastic. And the footsteps on characters is super loud. So if I am playing and I hear someone sneaking up behind me, I will absolutely 100% hear that. So that did help me a little bit. But other than that, like, I don't know if there's very many transferable skills that come out of Dead by Daylight. So not really a lot.
For my penultimate question, I love that word. How long do you think Dead by Daylight is going to last?
I don't want to be pessimistic, but I have, let me see. I need to give you the exact number.
Okay, I'm seeing.
I have 8,862.8 hours in this game, and it has only been recently that I felt burnout. Only recently have I just been not really having a reason to hop back in. It's gotten to a point where things are so buggy and things are inconsistent and frustrating. It feels like they've removed a lot of like little things in the game for me. Like I don't play Huntress as much as I used to because that's just not as fun. I don't really enjoy playing any of the lower tier killers. That could just be me having burnout from playing, you know, almost 9,000 hours. But the new player experience isn't that great. And then if you have players like me who've played for a long time, not really finding any reasons to log on, then that isn't looking too good. I think with their recent collab, the Five Nights at Freddy's DLC, if that one goes well, it'll help. But they really, really need to pick up the ball on that one.
Yeah. And like prepare for it in general instead of just like coasting towards it for another paycheck type thing.
Absolutely. They need to do some stuff. It really isn't. I don't think this answer is very easy to give because there's so many things that could happen and so many things that I'm not sure will happen, but it could.
Yeah, exactly. It's just about being prepared for type things.
Yep.
Because I feel, because Resident Evil, the first chapter that I wasn't playing for, that was both the biggest spike in player numbers that Dead by Daylight's had so far, and it also like broke the game.
Oh yeah, I remember console players couldn't really play. I think it was Pixel Bush specifically tried to play Nemesis. I remember a Twitter clip, and it would just absolutely freeze his game.
Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy, like, listen, I'm saying as a Resident Evil fan, okay, Five Nights at Freddy's is probably gonna be like the biggest license in Dead by Daylight because and I love Resident Evil. I'm not shitting on the series, but like FNAF, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, the one where it's like you can go on any Hot Topic and you will just see merch all over the wall.
Like, did you see how many likes that tweet got? It had like, I think it was like 34 million views or something compared to Resident Evil's like 4. Like, it's gonna bang the game open.
I think part of it is because Resident Evil is mostly horror fans. And well, Five Nights at Freddy's is like not horror exclusive. It's like children's horror where it's not that scary and it doesn't have that much gore or creep factor in it. It's more of like
it's like introductory
PG-13
horror.
Yeah. And I think that appeals to a wider audience.
Yeah, and It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big for sure.
Man, I hope the killer isn't fun because I could not stand it if I turned into a Freddy Fazbear main or something. That would just be the end of me.
That would be really funny though.
Yeah, you play Dead by Daylight. What's your favorite character?
Or
Yeah. Freddy Fazbear.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of missed the bus on Five Nights at Freddy's because like when I was younger, I was a weenie and I didn't like scary things, and now that I'm older, I feel like the how do you do fellow kids if I even tried.
It must
So
have
like,
just missed me. But a lot of people enjoy it, so I am just mainly happy it's coming to the game because it might attract an audience, and maybe, you know, behavior will get on top of all those things that are frustrating.
like the new player experience and rewards for things and making
sure.
things better.
Absolutely.
All right, my very last question for you here. What would be the straw that breaks the camel's back? What would make you drop Spirit once and for all, forever? Like a change, a bug, new character from a license you've been waiting for years? Anything at all? What would make you never play Spirit again?
I mean, the only reason I picked up Spirit was because I enjoyed her gameplay. I think they had that bug where you couldn't hear anything at all during the Castlevania chapter. Like, her sound bug has incrementally been getting better. It's been like, imagine there's just like 4 levels of audio that she's been going through. If they had kept her first one where it was insanely bugged, then I would have dropped her for sure. Because then it's basically you can't play her at all. There really isn't that many changes they could do to make me hate it. I mean, if they nerfed her significantly or changed so much about her, I would drop her. I don't really play characters for the license either. So it's not as if, like, if something else happened that I would drop her entirely. Mostly because I still play Huntress. I still play Nurse. I still play all those killers I enjoy, just not to the same degrry. I'm an enjoyer of fun. If they come out with something fun, I'll play that.
You can't say that. It's only about winning.
Nah, I mean, winning is kind of part of it, right? Like,
I guess so. I do like a good old win, I must say.
Yeah, I only play just, for the chases. I never win. It's not as if I have like one of the highest win rates in all the content creators.
And win streaks and good killer, known for this thing.
I would just be lying.
Well, thank you. That's kind of all I have for today. So just going to do our little outro section where you can talk about like your links, where we can find you if you're working on anything that you want a little tease to get out there of. This time here is all for you. So go for it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I had quite a bit of fun talking about the killer that I enjoy playing the most at the moment. You can find me over on my Twitch channel. I do stream quite often. You can find my YouTube channel, has a lot of useful information if you're looking to getting into playing Spirit or you just enjoy watching that content. I also have a TikTok as well. I've been posting Marvel Rivals content recently, but I don't know how much that'll branch out. I just know that I play games for fun. And thank you so much for having me. It was a fun time.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I had a good old time, Thank you for being on the series as the Spirit. And yeah, to everyone here that's been listening or watching or getting it beamed directly into your brain, whatever it might have been, thank you for being here and being part of the community. I appreciate it very much. Hope you have a lovely rest of your evening, morning, day, noon, night, whenever, whyever, wherever it may be. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. So catch you later. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.